Saturday morning, yes. Here we are. We're back with you, iced coffee in hand, because it is a hot one this time around. All right. I was told you can't reinvent the wheel. Well, you know what? I look at it this way. I looking back at when I was told that, I understand what that means. But then I was like, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I want the old wooden and stone wheels. Why? Nostalgia. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So we're going to go ahead and read some comments. We got some comments here to read. If your comment wasn't read, you kind of probably got in too late in the show, or it got pulled for whatever reason. It does happen. We've had that happen with some people. Um, so get your comments in right away. Watch the show and get your comments in right away. Your comments is the show. That's what we do here. It's a Saturday morning collectors radio show. We just kind of ramble on about nonsense, really. A lot of people love hanging out here. Those that don't understand what we do here, that's what it's all about. So, all right, here we got Crazy Scotsman Morning Brother. Grips are such an individual thing. What fits you may not work for me. Custom grips are a whole different ball game. Good recommendations for those looking. Yes. And for me, grips are all about aesthetics. It's all about how it looks. I could give a rip about how functional they are. If they are something that represents something of the past, the old vintage Colt Python grips, that I get here from Deer Hollow. There's probably a whole bunch of other grips out there to feel better and work better and all that, but guess what? They're not nostalgic. They're not from the past, so that's where I'm at. I don't care. I want stuff from the past. Like I said, I don't really care about anything else. Why else would you put these slick, totally almost non-functional, age-looking ivory style, synthetic grips on your six gun? John Wayne did it, so that's all I ever do with mine. I don't ever have anything else on mine. You can pretty much guess if I have a single action army, it's going to have aged yellow grips on it. And a lot of my 1911s and other stuff do have aged yellow grips on it because I just felt it, and in a way it looks cool. In fact, right over here, I've got a set that I made of aged yellow grips for a Ruger Mark II. So anyway, and grips are such an individual thing. He is so correct about that. They really are. And some people, it's all about that. What works for their hand, and for me, I guess, totally different. Okay, Jeffrey Richardson. Good morning. Sip of coffee. Sold a Colt Trooper a while back, polished nickel. Just too pretty to shoot a lot. I get that. Yeah, I definitely get that. I have sold off so much of my stuff already, just because I wasn't ever using it, and honestly, I've been slowing down greatly in a lot of my adventures with the shooting and everything like that. Used to be where I would love to have a big excursion all day and go out for hours and do it and everything and shoot and pull the trigger. It used to be that way for me when I first started. I've been in the gun business. I was in the business for like 15 years or something like that. It's hard for me to sometimes wrap my head around that it's like, God, has it really been that long? And one of the last things I wanted to do with it was do the indoor gun range thing. That was something that a really good friend of mine, somebody near and dear to me, Ernie taught me the industry, taught me a lot about what I need to know, and kind of coached me on, how to handle things. He worked at an indoor gun range, and he used to tell me all these cool stories about working there. So it's something I really wanted to do. So when I moved off the island and came to Arizona, that's ended up what I ended up doing, and I did it for like 5 years, and it was awesome. And when that ended, I'm not trying to say it's a lot of the things that was that was it. It was almost like, wow, I did it. I got to do it, and there it is. Not gonna lie. If Colt offered me a job, I would do it in a heartbeat. It's one of the companies that I feel is so cool with their history and their logo and all their stuff that they got and everything like that. So mainly with their 1911s and their revolvers and stuff like that. That's I'm not an AR guy, so I don't really that part of it does not mean much to me. So, but anyhow, but yeah, that's something like that. But obviously changing my gears where spending time with my mom has become more important to me than anything else. Still enjoy things very in small, really small doses. But yeah. All right. This one here is from Led 8541. I saw Led breaking in his new Traeger. That was pretty cool, Led. Man, I tell you, you always make me want barbecue. That's the problem with your channel, Led. I get hungry. Anyway, if you've not checked out Led 8541, please do. Man, I tell you, his barbecue videos are just my favorite. I love that stuff, man. I grow less and less interested in these channels that and I get it, but you get these channels that are like they all of a sudden it feels like you're watching a commercial, and I wish they and I just love what I like the guy that's just like, no, man, I went down to the hardware store and I bought this and here it is. And Led is just that's what you get from him. It's like, here, I got this thing that we're gonna check it out. Like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and I'm not being paid to say either way. And I'm not gonna spend the first part of my video telling you to go and buy all these products or whatever because they've cut me a check to say all that stuff. Which is fine. Hey, more power to them if they're making money off doing it, whatever. But I never took sponsorships for the channel. I never did. And again, I never got that big, so but I never will. But I don't know. For me, it's like I want to be honest with people. I mean, if the thing sucks, it sucks. All right, DB, top of the morning. Top of the morning to you and Slim Fire. Good morning, JW. I hope you're having a great weekend. My wife had surgery last Monday, and the doctor found no cancer. That's awesome. Good to hear that. No cancer for Slim's wife, and many prayers for her recovery. That's awesome. Thank you so much for the prayers and mentioning her. Have you seen the new Colt Grizzly and 357 Magnum? Thanks, Slim. I've seen photos of the Grizzly. There's another one. What is it? The Kodak or something? There's two of the Bear models out there. I've seen pictures of them. I haven't actually seen them in person. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm not a fan of unfluted cylinders. I know. I think I've reviewed or looked at or videoed some stuff in the past with it, with some unfluted stuff. I think I borrowed a friend of mine's unfluted Model 29. He really likes unfluted ones. I don't. To me, there's something the way it looks with the flutes on it. It's always that classic look. So that's just for me. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're really good because as all their newer stuff is great. Starting with the Python and all that. For me, excuse me, but yeah, for me, the Python, and a buddy of mine has the Anaconda, and I was actually thinking about buying an Anaconda at the time. Now I'm not thinking about buying anything really, but I felt that after I saw his, and we shot his, when it comes to the 44 Magnum in that realm, I'm going to stick with the Model 29. I think the Model 29, any much larger than that, is just, for me, seems unwieldingly and silly. Now, my buddy that has the Anaconda, he's like twice my size, so I get it. It handles for him really well. For me, it just felt like a really massive revolver and seemed really silly in my hands. And of course, if it was some kind of movie related thing, I might change the story. But anyhow, yeah. But no, I did check. I did see the Grizzly and stuff. I'm sure they're really nice, but I never actually saw them in person. Never handled them. So there's that. Looks like you got a few replies here. Crazy Scotsman said, "Glad to hear that she is on the mend. We're all here for you and the family." Yes, we are. We those of you that are part of the Collectors Show right here, like Crazy Scotsman says, we are a niche family that we've got, and we stick together. Of course, Crazy Scotsman's done a whole lot for a lot of the different YouTubers and stuff that unfortunately passed on, got sick and whatnot. It happens. Life happens. I'm still here. So anyway. All right. This one here is from Michael. Michael says, "Happy Saturday," and happy Saturday to you, Michael. Joe P. Swig of coffee for Joe and all the working stiffs, us 9 to 5ers, the time clock punchers. All right. Good morning, JW. I know you have said this before, but when it comes to high-end grips, if you want them, buy them when they are available. Absolutely. It may be expensive, and it can be expensive. But when they're available, you want to get them. It's crazy because I'm even feeling it these days as I'm getting older, and it's happening faster and faster before you can imagine it. My friends have gotten older. I feel like I'm like almost going to be in that realm of like sitting there going, "Hey, you remember that? Those of you that remember this grip maker from years ago back, oh man, I'll tell you, boy, I should have bought 10 pairs of them. Now you can't even find them, and when you do, somebody wants $10,000 for a set. I feel like, oh my gosh, is that really happening? A great example, Deer Hollow Grips. This guy makes custom stuff, and I'm just like, wow, I didn't think that was possible to make a reproduction of the original grips down to the exact science that he does it. And that's what really fascinates me is this guy's done so much research on it and got every little corner and every scale and sweep of the right down to the way this angles and what generation it is from 1 to 2 to 3, and 3 has like 3 different variations, and the amount I'm just like, wow, this guy's a fanatic, and he's created this and he's sharing it with you and he's putting it out there and people are buying it up, and his stuff goes fast. I mean, when it's available, buy it. Don't waste time. Get yourself on that email list and purchase yourself a set. That's what I do. There's stuff I'm still waiting for, and it's just a patient waiting game. You get yourself on that, put it in an email, and this is what I'm looking for, and this is so. And then when he gets around to making them, they throws them up there. The problem is he's a one-man operation, so it's not like he has like 100 pairs made at once. He maybe has like 5 or 6 pairs, and then he'll do it, and then you got all these people on the waiting list, and they puts them out there, and then boom, 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 boom. I mean, so if you're lucky enough to snag them, I mean, getting put on the waiting list doesn't guarantee you a set. It just tells you like he's going to notify you when they're in stock. That's what happens. So if you happen to be one of those people that are pretty diligent about it and getting in there. Now, I'm not even one of those people that get notifications on my cell phone. When I just check on a daily basis. That's how I snag up mine. So you just got to be obsessive about it, I guess. Anyway, I love Eagle grips, and I purchased several over the years. But when I went back last year to buy another pair for my LCR, they had been discontinued. Nothing else comes close. I have been kicking. There we go, folks. Listen to this. I have been kicking myself for months for not buying them when I should have. Yes, I have done things like that more times than I want to even remember. That really, yeah. Sean here. Sean says, "Morning, y'all. Arizona Custom Grips is another company. I've got a set of John Wayne style grips coming as we speak from them. Hopefully they look good and fit well. We shall see. I'm sure they will. A lot of these companies do phenomenal work, better than I could ever do." All right, this one here is from Frank. Thank you for what you do. Enjoy. I appreciate that, Frank. Appreciate your support and everything. So All right. So as far as grips go, uh, I, I've kind of talked about this many times. Where I started making grips long actually before YouTube, because basically I had a pair of John Wayne grips on my. That's the same revolver I've had for all those years. Um, they when I first saw this come out in one of the magazines, it had the yellow grips. I dropped it and broke them. I didn't even have the thing 24 hours, and uh, oh man, yeah. So as with most, my first option was to buy a set of ivory style stocks for it and stain them. I'm going to save you the headache because, as my friend Billy told me when I was messing around trying to stain them with all kinds of like random chemicals, I hope the hell you learned your lesson. And you know what? If you're going to stain your ivory grips that you bought from whomever, I will say sometimes these companies will put a polish of some sort over it. That's how they polish it. They hand polish it. I think Hogue does that. Um, Try to like soak them or wipe them down with some sort of degreaser. Try to get some of that off because that's going to stop especially if it's a wax, it's going to stop the dye from penetrating and getting in there. Um, Leather dye is what I found over those years works the best. I did a video on that so long ago. I don't even know if it's still even up or available. A lot of that stuff gets pulled down now, um, and a lot of stuff I pulled down just to eliminate the risk of losing this channel. So that is, part of the reasons I've done a lot of things. Some people say, "Oh, this video's not there. This video's not there." Yeah, that's because I had to pull them or YouTube pull them because I didn't want to risk the channel being yanked out from completely. We got too much time into it, and we have too many of you folks that have subscribed to it. So uh, anyway, put the dye, and mix it with denatured alcohol and dilute it and just go slow. Just darken it ever so. You just add a little bit more dye as you go. Put it in there, swish it around, take it out, look at it, and just go slow. Just keep adding a small amount of dye as you go, because if you go full bore and just take the bottle of dye and just throw it on your grips, you may end up with something that looks like a old rotten carrot out of your fridge, and then now how do you turn that back? You can't. So depending on what level of yellow you want, you may get a little bit and you may say, you know what, that's actually all I was looking for. Great. You wouldn't have achieved that if you just went and doused the whole bottle full of strength on it. So dilute it as you go. This, if you guys, throw those of you that have been keeping up with my posts, I do try to post frequently on their pictures and some write-ups and stuff like that. Let me know if you guys have been enjoying that. It looks like many of you have been clicking on it. This is the set that I actually photographed. I took they were pretty much what I call the rubber ducky yellow grips, and I put shellac over it. And the shellac gave it variation of really darkening here and there and streaks, and gave it that look that is actually pretty nice. So I left it at that. So that is another way to do it. You could always paint something over it. Paint your ivory stocks with. Go to the hardware store and get yourself a can of shellac. That does work. As I tested that theory out on many things where I was looking at making some grips that are maybe just straight, like kind of off-white color, and then I've shellacked them, and then they turned aged yellow. That's another great way to do it. Just trying to help people out, in their endeavors, just from the things that I've learned over the years of pouring a lot of money down the drain and getting screwed over, really, or things not working. The majority of all my projects did not work out. So that's another way to do it. The screws that I use on mine, aside from buying the special design bit, that's the one thing you will need to buy. You can do it. I don't even know if I wouldn't attempt it without the bit, because it's just the bit is what makes it all that much easier. You get the special screw driving bit. I think you can get it from Midway or somebody. I forget. I've had mine for so many years now. I don't even know if they still is around. I'm sure it is. Hopefully it is. But the escutcheons that you put in there, you can buy escutcheons, and if you're only doing one or set or something like that, that's great. You can just order the 3-piece or whatever they 3 or 4 pieces that it comes with. My friend I carry one, I think, did that. He only ordered like a handful of them, and that's what, because he wasn't exactly using them constantly. But me, like for me, as I was constantly making sets, I couldn't that when they were like whatever they were charging for a pop for those. I needed to come up with another alternative. My alternative came to going to the hardware store, buying the smallest, one of the sets that was pretty much replicated the same size as this, and you can get them out of brass or you can get them out of the I don't know what is it, zinc or something, and I use usually mostly the brass ones, taking them and then screwing it onto the thing, taking a file and just breaking some of the corners down. Not entirely. You don't want to make it all, circular and smooth, but you want some of the corners there because I stopped gluing them in. I just set them in there and I took a punch and I just press fitted them. I literally, that's just what I started doing because it saved time. It saved anything to eliminate another cost is what I was trying to do for them because I had poured so much money down the drain in trying to create this stuff. It was ridiculous. The short time and the string that I had when I was actually selling grips, and those of you that bought grips, I thank you very much. I never did it to make money. I did it to share my creations with people and to see if people wanted that, and a lot of people did, and I'm very grateful for that. But I'm really, really stupid when it comes to setting up anything, websites, payments, all that kind of stuff. So I had a helper do that for me, and you know what? We had a fun run at it. It was a lot of fun for both of us. Uh, they did most of the work. I was just the idiot making the stuff. So, but yeah, I thank you for all of you that ended up getting the grips and buying them. I appreciate that. Again, I never made grips with the intention to sell them. I never did. I made grips because I wanted to see if it could be done. I wanted to see if I could do it, and it led to doing things like finding out that okay, Cole at some point did this thing. I believe it's. They must have run out of the World War II panel brown grips, and they went to this marbled orange brown grip with their little pony in the middle, and somehow they did that. They lasted for 50s and the early 60s, to my understanding, and then they were gone. Now, the problem with those is they shrunk, they warped the materials that they use that I'm guessing it's like some kind of probably the same thing that they used similar in World War II, some kind of Bakelite phenolic resin stuff. And yeah, stuff doesn't hold up. I mean, it really, I mean, I'm sure as they, as they found out themselves, and then people going on like eBay and stuff, I saw that, bidding on those marbled grips and not even knowing if they're going to fit the frame of your 1911 because it was very common that they warped. You see this? These are together. This is a set I made, and they warped because I'm using pretty much the same materials as they used. I'm using a countertop lamination material, and it's doing the same thing that they encounter. This stuff warps. This stuff doesn't, and I'm sure that's, and you're talking about grips from the, look at that, 50s and 60s, and mine has done that just within some years, a couple of years or something like that. Mine's done that. I heard that once they're on if they're on the 1911, if you end up buying a 1911 with originals on it, don't take them off. That's what I've been told. Do not take them off. If they fit and they're good, they're not. Don't take them off. I've seen ones where it's been shrinking and pulling, and you'll see the cracks going up around the holes where the screws go in. So I've seen that, and that's been happening. But again, those of you that bought a set for me, that had gone through that anyway, I appreciate that more than you know. It was more. I did it more to share with you folks rather than make a buck. Obviously, but you had to charge something for the materials and the cost of doing it. And the time that put into doing it, because it's all hand done. I don't have a CNC machine to do it. I don't have any kind of things like that. I have to do it all by hand. The shaping and the final fit and finish and drilling out the holes and everything and making it work. And trying to make sure that, and again, this is another reason why I never intended to sell them, because all the dirty work is on the back of the grips. And I make sure of that, try to do that, to make sure all the dirty work is on the back. Where the aesthetic wise is on the front, and it's try to get it as nice as possible. That's not always an easy task to complete. So, and many of them don't work out. Many of them end up, being just destroyed, or just okay, well, that didn't work, and throw them away. So, but anyway, yeah, that's that the grip making thing has been a really long journey. It was just crazy to get into that. So yeah. The good old island days, man. I tell you, that was a lot of fun. Learning how to do all that, and that was I was constantly messing with those grips on the island, that was during the time where I spent so much time making single action yellow grips, so many years doing it, and so many trips to the local marina and stuff, buying the materials that I used back then. That was probably the greatest materials to use for those early. I think only two people that I can think of actually ended up buying a set of those back in the early days of doing it. Again, because they contacted me. It wasn't because I was advertising to sell them. One of them is a fellow named Bob H. And I don't even know what happened to him. I wish I knew. He used to be around the channel a lot. Anyway, he's also the guy that sent me ballistol for the very first time on the island. And once I got a hold of that and used it, I do appreciate that, Bob. If you ever hear this or listening to this, I use it exclusively now. That's it. That's all I pretty much use. I got another can of it here. But anyway, because on the island I couldn't get it. It wouldn't ship. It's hazardous. Everything's hazardous. Hazmat. We can't ship to you. Hazmat. That's stuff like that I don't miss. So things like, so Bob was like, well, that's ridiculous. So Bob went and he found just a non-aerosol one and boxed it up and had it shipped to me. No problem. So anyway, but yeah, he was one of them that got some of those early grips that I was using. Now back to that is the material is great. They looked great. The downfall of them where they were brittle. If you dropped them like something like that, and it would shatter like glass. They weren't durable at all. So as I moved on, and it was so caustic to use that material. That stuff was like making those grips back then. I'm sure I shortened my life in some way because the chemical that was used into making those was like horrible. Being around the process and doing it probably make you absolutely want to vomit. So that material is just not good. And there was a lot of things that went wrong with it. Shrinking went wrong with it. That's the other thing. I found out over the time is like the stuff shrinks. So during the curing process, and it just doesn't. You end up going great. Now it doesn't fit. How do you compensate for that? You got to make them oversized, and then there's like all this sanding and fitting and all that, and you're kind of and it's like, and if you don't know what you're doing, like when I first started out, I mean, you're just ruining stuff left and right. Yeah. So, and then the hand coloring process, you don't know how, when you're coloring the stuff, how it's gonna look, and most of the time it doesn't look good, and every now and then it's you get something that works. But anyway, appreciate everybody hanging around this Saturday. It's been fun. I brought out some of this stuff because this is the stuff that I kind of stick with these days. I really enjoy, like I said, getting rid of a lot of other things, but having the original or the reproduction of the government model, that I really like that. I've been sticking to a lot of the more inexpensive. What I mean is it's not a $2,000 collectible. It's a modern reproduction of the years gone by that I enjoy shooting, having fun with because I'm not destroying history. Since then, a lot of those go. So yeah, this is anybody can go get one of these, down at your local store. I'm not saying they're cheap. They're not, but they're not also collector prices. Same with the Python, and I love my Italian-made single actions that are pretty much floating around. Any decent gun shop now can get any of these, and I have a lot of fun with them because they're like having the past and nostalgia right there, done correctly and made with modern technology, so you can really enjoy them at the range and not pay collectors' prices for it. Because that's I love collecting, I love the old stuff, but I just can't afford it anymore.